Jak 2 is a game I absolutely knew I would play due to me streaming on Twitch. Shameless plug again. And through what I assumed would be a similar jaunty experience like the first game, would be something completely different. Different atmosphere, different setting, different mood. These things and more made me feel like it wasn't a simplistic masterpiece, but rather a sequential masterpiece. Now obviously both games aren't entirely different. Jak 2 still follows the same cast of characters and still has similarities in the game. The movement still had that funky flow, platforming was snappy and fun when I didn't suck, and it still had that feeling where the gameplay was the most important part to the, well, game. But what I mainly want to discuss for today's video is what makes Jak 2 different. One of the first few qualities that differed from Jak and Daxter was the addition to the guns. At first I was a bit put off by them, thinking it was a way to compete with another 3D platformer series at its time by making a watered down cheap version of it, until I continued to play and thought how more impactful they were to the gameplay. While J&D had some combos for combat, it never really had roots for variety or complexity. Jak 2 switches it completely by having 4 different types of guns to use for multiple occasions. Shotgun for widespread enemies, rifle for long range or flying mobs, minigun for hordes, and the Peacekeeper for a one-shot kill for any big threats. Each not only are great on their own, but they also have combos making combat more complex and rewarding the player for using them. The shotgun gets faster fire rate, rifle shoots in bursts instead of single fire, and the minigun skips its windup entirely. All the guns have different personalities to them, and a cool little detail is that they all represent one of the color ecos in the first game. Red for the strong shotgun, yellow for the long range rifle, blue for the fast fire rate minigun, and dark eco for ultimate power. And speaking of dark eco, another thing added into this game was the dark Jak form, or as I like to call it, beast mode. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, I barely used it. In fact, I totally forgot it was a mechanic throughout my entire playthrough, but I really did like the concept of it, and wish it personally was expanded on. I get it did have different upgrades with cool new abilities and wicked combos Jak was able to do, but then again, gun. Still, it's a pretty cool idea and an interesting concept to have another form for Jak, although really thinking about it, it reminded me of another video game character with a dark mode too. The world design was also a big change for this game. No longer were there multiple hub areas and connector levels to get to them, but rather one big hub sandbox playground with multiple levels all scattered around the corners of the map. The game had a much more linear approach with the additions to missions. Each area had multiple missions and levels within them, unlocking as you go. And while most were really great and almost felt like the old Jak and Daxter platforming, some levels made me want to pull my hair out. Regardless, the last big thing that really threw me off guard was just how useless the collectibles were. Sure, the gems unlocked you new powers, and the orbs gave you secrets to have fun around, but they had no importance of level progression. One of the big factors of Jak and Daxter was the need to find the collectibles, which helped make it feel more natural to backtrack to older levels. With the mission system, it felt off to me, especially when I had to go to places where I had trouble. And speaking of trouble, as I segue into the next topic, another big change this game made for the Jak and Daxter franchise was its difficulty. It's hard. That's it. It's hard. Or I just suck at platformers. Again. It's safe to say that this game definitely had a difficulty spike from its predecessor. I don't know what Naughty Dog was thinking with this game, but man did they feel like they wanted to up the level of hardness, starting with the enemies. The first game only just had derpy mobs that didn't really do much other than sit around barfing at you or running at you with little to no thought. This game completely changes that. I feel like the AI just flipped on the kill switch and started using tactical maneuvers on me. Each enemy either had some form of projectile, were crazy fast, or had some specific mechanic like the ones with the shield where you had to shoot them right as they tried to shoot you. It made it feel like some sort of western standoff or something. The more aggressive enemies definitely put me off guard when first playing, but what I think is what most people considered to be the hardest part of the game would be its very limited checkpoints. From just coming out of the first game, I was expected to fail a lot. But yet, I still had that blissful ignorance thinking how generous the game would be with its checkpoints. Nope, not anymore. Fuck you. Any mess up would lead you having to completely redo most of the level, if not the whole level entirely. And while I do understand why they made this big change to remove the hand-holdingness to the game, sometimes it felt completely pointless to make it like so, when the first game had 2 checkpoints on the final boss. Like, huh? But you know what made this game extremely hard. What really made me want to pull my hair out, then grind it into a smoothie and drink it? It was the vehicle missions. Any form of racing or taxi driving was the worst experience I had in this game. We can thank GTA 3 for that. I don't know if this is just me since I drive a Toyota Prius, but man did I have the most trouble with the missions with a vehicle in it. Somehow, the movement of them was too slippery for me and I just kept bumping and crashing and dying to vehicles all the time. But even though I kept losing to these missions and wanting to cry myself to sleep, I actually feel like this is one of the key aspects to this game's charm. It helped portray what this game wanted its tone to be, which is dark. For some reason, there was a major tone shift to Jak 2. It got a lot darker than the original. From rated E for everyone to immediately jumping to rated T for teens. And the craziest thing was that the games were just 2 years apart. I don't know what was the thinking process for this change, but man, for some reason did it fit well. I was genuinely surprised to hear Jak's first words to be, "Just this once! I'm gonna kill Praxis!" From insert protagonist that can't speak to actual character with depth, this game changed my perspective over what the franchise was now. No longer was it this lighthearted Disney-style game. It now felt like one of those Cartoon Network shows that would be super serious and deep, only to get cancelled and have like 2 seasons. Whether or not which one is better is entirely subjective, but I appreciate the risk the team was willing to make. It all just fits into what the game was and how it felt. From the characters to the setting to even the core game mechanics all helped shift the tone to a darker one than the first. And with this, honestly brought one of my favorite character growths in the game. Daxter. Originally, he was the selfish, snarky little rascal over your shoulder, criticizing every detail, but now he had grown to be a huge support for Jak as he went down his edgy arc while still trying to compromise with others to not dislike Jak or lose trust in him. It was one of the best parts of the story in my opinion, and I can easily thank the tone shift for it. All in all, this game definitely deserves the same praise as the first one. I really have been enjoying this franchise and can't wait to complete the trilogy whenever OpenGL finally gets 3 working. It's always a blast to play these classic games that I have no nostalgia for and give them a fresh look into the modern perspective of games. And yeah, this game also holds up too. Playing Jak and Daxter has honestly opened up this new view of gaming as a whole, and it makes me want to start playing a bunch of classic video games and bring light on them again. It's pretty crazy with all the comments saying how much they enjoyed the franchise, and I can't wait to make the same feelings for more to come. Until then, the adventures of Jak and Daxter will have to come to a pause as we now turn our gaze to another classic game that may or may not make you want to cry, you little devils. Thank you all so much for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.